Hi friends, welcome to Sada Learning Hub. You are with me, Shadashirao. Today's session we are going to learn the most important JSP interview questions. See guys, in this video I'm going to cover 15 most popular JSP interview questions. Right? The first question is, what are the JSP implicit objects? If you see, there is some different JSP implicit objects are available into your JSP page. Whenever you are creating the JSP page, by default, some objects are available. JSP implicit objects are a Java objects that a JSP container makes available for the developer in each every page, and the developer can call them directly without being explicitly declared. JSP implicit objects are also called predefined variables. If you see a request object, response object in servlets, those are predefined objects. Means the container itself it creating and giving it to you. The same like in the every JSP page, some predefined or implicit objects are available to do the some operations. The next question is, what is implicit objects are supported by JSP? What implicit objects are supported by the JSP? If you see request, response, out, session, application, config, page context, page exception. These are the implicit objects are available in your JSP page. Whenever you are creating a JSP page, by default, some implicit objects are available like request, response, out, session, application, config, page context. You no need to create an explicitly. By default, these objects are available whenever you are creating your JSP page. The next question is, what is the request object? See here, the request object is an implicit object. It's a predefined object in JSP page. Whenever you are creating a JSP page, by default, the request object is available. The request object is an instance of Java x.servlet.http.http servlet request object. Each time a client requests a page, the JSP engine creates a new object to represent that request. The request object provides the methods to get HTTP header information, including form data, cookies, HTTP methods, etc. Whenever you are requesting the page, automatically the HTTP servlet request object is going to create. In the object, whatever the information is available to require to do the process of your request. It may be a HTTP address, or it may be a cookies, or it may be a whatever you are sending the data, what HTTP method is going, all those information is available in the request object. The next question is, how can you read a request header information? If you want to read your request header information, you can use get header names method. Using the get header names method of HTTP request to read the HTTP header information. This method returns an enumeration that contains the header information associated with the current HTTP request. Header information means what it request contains, when it request is going to create, when his request is create, and all those information is available in the request header. If you want all this information, we can call the get header names method. It is bounded to HTTP servlet request object. It returns the one enumeration and it contains header information associated with the current HTTP request. The next question is, what is the response object? See here. The response object is an instance of Java x.servlet.http.http servlet response. See here, this is not a request. HTTP servlet response object. Just as the server creates a request object, it is also creates an object to represent the response to the client. The response object also defines the interface that deals with the creating an HTTP headers. Through this object is JSP programmer can add a new cookies for the data stamps, HTTP status codes and all those things. See here, whenever you are creating an object of servlet, whenever you are requesting a servlet, automatically the request and response objects are going to create. The request contains when the request is created, where it can be coming from, in which browser the request is requested, and all those information it will be available in the request object. After executing some business logic, we need to send the response. See here, the response is object also is a predefined object. It is created by the container, and also it is possible to update the response object. We can set our response. It may be a HTML response or it may be any response, and also we can update our HTTP headers, and also we can update our cookies into that particular response. The response object is instance of a Java x.servlet.http servlet response object. Just as a server creates the request and request object, it is also creates an object to represent the response to the client. The next question is, what is the out implicit object? See here, the out implicit object is an instance of Java x.servlet.jsp.jspWriter object, and it is used to send content in the response. After creating an object, response object, we need to set some content. In that situation, we can use out object. The out object, implicit object, is an instance of Java x.servlet.jsp.jspWriter object. If you see in a Java, core Java, system.out.println, how it is going to work? It prints a statements in the console. In the same like, the out object is used to print the response into your response object. If you treat like that. The next question is, what is the difference between a JSP writer and a print writer? If you see, there is a two classes are available, JSP writer and the print writer. What are the differences? The JSP writer object contains the most of the same methods as an java.io.printWriter class. However, JSP writer has some additional methods designed to deal with the to deal with buffering. Unlike the printwriter object, JSP writer throws IO exception. Why? Because JSP writer has a buffering. If you see, the JSP writer and the print writer almost same, but a JSP writer has a one more additional method that is called buffering one related method. It throws an IO exception. Apart that, remaining everything is same for the JSP writer and print writer. The only one difference is the buffering concept. Only the one difference for JSP writer and print writer. The next question is, what is the session object? The session object is an instance of Java x.servlet.http session, and it is used to track the client session between a client request. If you see a shopping cart application, whenever you are adding the item to the cart, it will be available to completion of your shopping. In that situation, we need to maintain your cart information into one place. We can assume that we can use the session object in the scenarios. The session object is an instance of Java x.servlet.http.http session, and is used to track a client session between a client requests. The next question is, what is the application? What is an application object? Implicit object. The application object is a direct wrapper around a servlet context object for the generated servlets, and it is reality an instance of Java X.servlet context object. The object is a representation of a JSP page through to entire the life cycle. This object is created when a JSP page is initialized, and it will be removed when the JSP page is removed by the JSP destroy method. See here, the application object is nothing but a direct wrapper around a servlet context object for a generated servlet, and it is reality as an instance of servlet context object. This object is created whenever the JSP is going to initialize. This object is going to destroyed when JSP destroy method is going to execute. The next question is, what is the config object? If you see the config object is an initialization of Java X.servlet.servlet config, and it is a direct wrapper around the servlet config object for the generated servlets. This object allows the JSP programmer access to the servlet or a JSP engine initialization parameters such as a path or a file locations, etc. If you want to initialize anything, we can use a servlet config like that, a servlet config object for a generated a servlet. This object allows the JSP program access to servlet or a JSP engine initialization parameters like paths and file locations and all those things. The next question is, what is the page context object? The page context object is an instance of Java X.servlet.jsp.page context object. The page context object is used to represent the entire JSP page. If you see one JSP page, the page context is to represent the entire JSP page. This object stores the references to the request and response objects for each request. The application, config, session, out objects are derived by accessing attributes of an object. The page context object is also contains the information about the directives issued to the JSP page, including and buffering informations, the error page URLs and page scopes. If you see whatever the information related to the page, it may be anything, everything holded by the page context object. It is a high level object. The next question is, what is page object? The object is an actual reference to the instance of the page. It can be a true of an object that represents the entire JSP page. The page object is really direct a synonym for the object. If you see, the object is an actual reference of an instance of the page. It can thought of an object that represents the entire JSP page. The page object is really a direct synonym for the object. That's it only. The next question is, what is an exception object? The exception object is a wrapper containing the exception throws from the previous page. It typically used to generate an appropriate response to the error condition. Whenever you are getting an error, whenever you are parsing a page, whenever you are getting an error into the particular JSP page, we need to store whatever the exception details are getting into that particular page into that particular exception object. The next question is, what is the difference between get and post methods in HTTP protocol? This is the most important question. The get method sends the encoded user information appended to the page request. If you see, we can, whatever the parameters we are sending, it will be available in the URL itself. That can be go through a get method. The page and the encoded informations are separated by the question mark character. The post method packages the information is exactly the same way as a get method, but instead of sending if the text string after a question mark in the URL, it sends as a separate message. This message comes to the backend program in the form of the standard input which you can pass the use to your processing. If you see get method, whatever the values are you are sending, we can append with the question after question mark, append the whatever the values you are sending that is going in the get. But in the post, we can post your values not in the URL. That is the most important difference. The next question is how to read the form data using JSP. Okay, fine. You are posting the data, but how we can read the data? Sorry. JSP handles the form data parsing automatically using the some different methods are available. Whenever you are passing the form data, JSP providing the four different methods to get the form data. The first method is get parameter method. You call the request.getParameter method to get the values of the form parameters. The second one is getParameterValues method. Call this method if the parameter appears more than one and it returns the multiple values. If you see, if you are selecting your hobbies, whenever you are selecting your hobbies, you are putting a check boxes. We are selecting the multiple values. In that situation, we can use the get parameter values. The next method is get parameter names. Call this method if you want to complete a list of all parameters into the current request. For example, in your request, 20 to 30 parameters are available. That time, if you are using get parameter, it is so burden to write the developer. In that situation, we can use the get parameter names. It will be returns enumeration of whatever the parameters are available into that particular request. We can use the get parameter names. We'll get the values of that particular thing. The next method is get input stream method. This method calls this method to read the binary data stream coming from the client. See, if you are sending the files, sending the files means we are sending the binary data. In the time, we need to use the get input stream to receive those binary input stream. You are sending files nothing but you are sending the binary stream. That time we can use the get input stream method to get those data. This is about the most important Java questions, 15 Java questions, JSP questions, sorry. The next video I am going to cover next 15 questions. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching this video.
Thank you so much watching this video. Hope this lesson helpful to you. Keep watching our lessons. Keep writing to us. Do not forget subscribe our channel JSP Hub because we have many sessions that would help you to develop our skills, and I will be back soon. Till then, you take care. Bye bye.